So, we're here today talking about nutrition in the workplace and the impact of nutrition on employees, but also on businesses as well. So we've got some really fantastic panellists here to join us and to chat about all things to do with nutrition and the workplace and employee wellbeing and personal wellbeing as well. So I'll hand over and let everyone do their intros, and then we'll just kind of dive straight in. It's very casual, very chilled, so if you do have questions halfway through, don't be afraid to put your hand up and ask. We want it to be really interactive, but we'll also do a Q&A at the end as well. So if you do have questions and you want to ask at the end, perfect. Great, so we'll dive straight in. I'm Charlotte, and I'm obviously from Feedr. I'm the head of marketing, and I've put together this event along with our lovely team, as you can see in the Feedr t-shirts. Everyone wave. And I'll hand over to these lovely ladies.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Charlotte too.
Nice and easy.
And I'm the Wellbeing and People Operations Lead at Medopad, which is a health tech company. We're a client of Feedr. We've been a client for the last year. And I wear a few hats. So another hat I wear is I'm co-chair of Engage for Success Wellbeing Thought and Action Group. So we're like the voluntary arm of CIPD. And we've been active as a group. We're like a second cohort for the last year. And basically we're a group of academics, healthcare professionals, technology suppliers, and people professionals developing thought leadership and frameworks in the wellbeing in the workplace space. And another hat that I used to wear was as a complementary healthcare practitioner. So I had a practice for 10 years, teaching people how to be well, and I was featured in women's health during the time.
Thanks. Hi everyone, morning. I'm Adria, the founder of Maple & Co. Some of the breakfast items I hope you're enjoying this morning that my team has prepared. So Maple & Co., we're a healthy eating concept. We have 8 locations across London. We're located on the High Street as well as in the Office Group, a co-working space, and we're opening on Monday in a East London hotel, so we're kind of all over. And then in addition to that, my team is amazing and they help me run the business, but I teach at the College of Naturopathic Medicine and Le Cordon Bleu, so I'm a trained chef in kind of what I call natural chefing. I said that once and someone's like, well, were you born naturally a chef? I'm like, no, I teach natural chefing as in, and then I just stopped. But anyways, so I consider myself a natural chef. Some of the other things I do, I present on a show called Sunday Brunch on Channel 4, and I also do quite a bit of writing on recipe development and things like that from magazines like Men's Health, and I work with partners such as like the Tate to help train their chefs and kind of bring the healthy eating wellness front to their organization. So I'm really excited to be here, and hopefully we'll get to kind of talk more about health and well-being.
I'm Beth Cooper. I'm from MagicLab, the Wellbeing and Events Lead there. MagicLab is a group of dating apps, so we're from a tech background. I've been working at MagicLab for 2 years now, and when I started, nutrition and wellbeing was not a focus at all. So I've really helped to change to turn the company around and focus on working on that in the workplace.
Hi, my name's Michelle. I'm a health coach. I'm relatively new to this space, if I'm honest, because through sort of a personal journey myself of getting to the point that I was in my 40s, significantly overweight, ill all the time, and falling asleep at 3 o'clock every afternoon, pretty much no matter where I was, I got to the point where enough was enough and I wanted to make a change. So I was fortunate enough to get introduced to a health coach who absolutely changed my life and decided that I wanted to go ahead and retrain myself to help other people. So I now do corporate talks, corporate coaching and one-to-one coaching, and the whole aim of being a health coach is let's stop people getting sick in the first place, looking at nutrition, exercise, but also careers, relationships and stress, because everything is absolutely interlinked. And we're not going to make the right food choices if we're stressed, and we're not going to necessarily go to the gym if we're tired. So for me, I work with people just to make them really understand and to build new habits.
Amazing, thank you. So digging kind of straight into the details, starting with some of the trends that we've seen over the last few years, I think there's been a real shift in kind of the discussion around wellness and well-being and what that involves and why our focus should be there. I guess the question is open to the floor. What other trends have we seen, or kind of what are the key trends that we have seen over the last few years that are impacting kind of each of your areas that you work in and also personal lives as well? Adria, should we start with you?
So being obviously in the food, cooking, making world, one of the biggest trends that's impacted us by far is veganism. And we were even talking about it ourselves. I mean, it's grown by 700% in the last 5 years, which is incredible, 700. It is 4 times more searched than vegetarian or gluten-free this year. So think about that. Like, I think 3 or 4 years ago when we started Maple, gluten-free was absolutely the trend, but now on Google they show that it's 4 times, veganism as a word is more popular than veggie or gluten-free, which I find pretty surprising. So it really impacts the way people perceive food, it impacts the way people want to eat and their eating habits. So that's kind of one of the biggest trends we've seen, and it's really great to see that people are just promoting more and more of a plant-based diet, because I think that's the way going forward from a health perspective, absolutely.
I think it's also, you can see it in the market, like there's a lot more companies offering veganism, vegan things, and that actually helps me a lot in helping to offer more nutritional, beneficial foods. Quite a lot of our company are meat eaters, and they're very anti-vegan, so it's kind of like showing them that there are things that they can eat which still have the same taste, amazing still, and have a better nutritional value for them as well.
It is quite a polarizing topic, isn't it? I think veganism still, there's a lot of debate around it, which, it's all good. Whichever side you happen to fall on, it's good that people are talking about it and how food is sourced and everything that comes with that. But it's an interesting one that you mentioned, especially in the workplace. Charlotte.
Yeah, so I've kind of been really interested in the space for quite a while, and before it was kind of like being organic, local food, and what I love is like this is now a given. Like this is the baseline. Obviously, it's not like the baseline, but it's like, what I'm trying to say is like the baseline's a lot higher, and then we're kind of building on things like being plant-based, which I think is amazing. I think another big current trend is personalized well-being. So, what are those allergies for you? What is that combination? What is, you might have like all these different diets, but you like pick and choose from each diet, and you create it for you, and you go and see a professional, but they're a resource, they're not God. And so it's a lot more responsibility, a lot more interest, a lot more engagement, which is really, really exciting and much needed.
One other thing on the trends bit too, I think, is the movement towards like sugar-free and eating no refined sugars. But I think the danger with that too, like any health trend, is then people are eating 40 dates a day, which although is slightly better than sugar, there's still plenty of half your limit of sugar is in one vegetable date. So it's kind of like, I think we have to take everything with an 80-20 view, and like you said, it is a really personal thing. So I think the moving away from sugar, I think, is great. There is no, you'll know this as a nutritionist, there's no physical benefit to eating sugar. Our body requires, and a lot of people don't know this, but our body requires 0 sugar. A lot of times when I do talks, like, but you must need some. Like, you actually don't need any sugar at all. So I think it's about how do we limit the consumption of sugar, because sugar has proven to have so many detrimental short-term and long-term health impacts, whether that's something simple as like weight gain and bloatedness to things like type 2 diabetes. So I think that's the other trend that we're really seeing when people are moving away from sugar, but it should be no sugar, not just refined, but it should be reducing sugar intake overall, including aspartame and these other ones as well.
Yeah, Michelle.
Yeah, definitely agreeing on the vegan and the plant-based. As a sort of just over a year old sort of plant-based person, it was without a doubt the best thing I've ever done. But finding good food, whether that's in restaurants or good cookbooks that enables me to actually eat tasty food instead of living on sort of vegetable stir-fries, has just been wonderful, and now I'm spoilt for choice. But a lot of it, we're talking about the personalisation. With my clients, I think they're starting to realise that being bloated or sort of suddenly having to disappear off to the toilet because you're having a bit of a toilet urgency, or whatever issues that you're having around your gut, you don't actually need to have them. So people are starting to look more sort of at elimination diets to figure out what's actually wrong. And for years, I was getting severe bloating to the point of kind of looking 9 months pregnant, which is great when you're on the tube and you want to get a seat. But sort of apart from that, it's not ideal. And I always thought that it was wheat, or it was gluten, or it was the obvious ones. And it turns out I've got a problem with garlic and onion, which I now know is actually quite a common one to have. And what's amazing is there are now restaurants that have got garlic and onion free menus. So there's an Indian restaurant in Covent Garden, and this is an Indian restaurant, And they do certain dishes with no garlic and onion. So I think people are starting to realise that we can feel good, we can feel energised, and being tired and the symptoms that you're getting is actually due to what we're eating. And if you make the right food choices, then you can feel fantastic.
Brilliant. Thank you. I think just to add to your point, talking about the gut, actually, it's something we've really been talking about a lot at Feedr recently, and the gut-brain axis, and really that connection between, we all know that what you eat has, to an extent, an impact on our physical health, on bloatedness, energy, being able to perform when you're doing sports, things like that. We know that, and that's a given. But I think what's really interesting even in the last year or so, is kind of the increased research on the link between what we're eating and our mental wellness as well, and our cognitive abilities and our concentration and all of those things, which kind of previously there hasn't been such a direct correlation. So that's a really interesting one. We recently did a partnership with the gut health doctor, kind of really specifically talking about the link between the gut and what's going on up there as well. And it's great that there are more conversations and there's more research coming out around that as well.
Yeah, completely agree on that. And for people that are sort of struggling with mental health problems, there is quite a link between gluten and depression. So there have been people who have struggled with depression pretty much all their lives, and no one's ever spoken to them about gluten, and the minute they've stopped eating it, it is like the cloud has been lifted. Or there was a lady that I studied with, and she had just been ill all of her life and just was like, this is what happens, I'm ill. And it got to the point that one of her teeth fell out, and she was on a film set and her tooth just fell out. And she was like, this is ridiculous. And it turned out she was celiac, and no one had ever tested her for it. So often when I'm talking to people and I know that they've got challenges with mental health, it's like, well, what are you eating? Because exactly, the gut is the second brain, or they're actually saying now maybe it's our first brain, and let's look at what you're putting in, because that completely impacts what's going on in your mind.
Yeah.
Going back to the trends, I think even though there is so much more opportunity to, and so many different avenues to go down now, I think there's still for me it's quite difficult to convince people or tell people about them. So there are quite a lot of reluctant people in our workforce to make the change. They'd much rather have a donut than have like a healthier option. So it's a massive thing about education, and I think there's still a lot of people who are still in the dark about all the kind of different benefits out there.
Perfect segue. Thank you very much. Yeah, there we go. So next question, and kind of I'll throw it back to one of you guys. Given these changing trends, what should companies be doing, and what can companies be doing to kind of help to educate and to reinforce these trends and to really get people behind what is going on? And I guess it's a question as well, how much responsibility do businesses have to be doing that in the first place? So Charlotte, let's start with you.
Sure, so like the simple basic things, so we offer different kinds of yogurt, so kind of coconut, almond, soya, normal yogurt. It's funny how I say that last. And that's, obviously we're a health tech company, so that's quite normal. There's like vegan butter as well as the normal butter. Having healthy breakfasts. When we do socials, there's a range of non-alcoholic drinks that are really nice, and we'll pay as much for like that really nice organic kombucha as well as, a nice glass of wine. And we ensure that there's like food served with the drinks as well. And healthy snacks, so like baked crisps, the popcorn, proper popcorn, things like that. So just simple changes, so people are consuming it without realising. And actually, we're a health tech company, so it's not just people who are only into health who are there. We've got a lot of developers. That's half our company. So it's actually we're actually introducing them to these things, and they're normalising it to it.
Go ahead.
I think one of the things too is getting people together and talking about some of these things. So one of the things we do quite a lot is it would be, we'd bring maple food in, but then we'd also talk, about feeding your immunity, and that's all about gut health, as we're talking about earlier. So it could be bringing the food together along with discussing a certain topic. Sometimes it's really awkward when we go into offices and we're talking about all this healthy food, all this stuff, and if there isn't kind of the food to go along with it, and you look into the pantry, it's like all Cokes, all Diet Cokes, people are snacking on candy bars, like it kind of contradicts. I think it's getting the pantry upgraded and then actually having conversations around things that people are really interested in, whether that's being sugar-free, how do you do that, what are the little steps you can take, or managing managing like a vegan diet, all these things. I think it's, step one, the pantry, and then step two, actually facilitating the environment for your employees to be able to talk about these things.
So yeah, I agree with both those points. We offer a range of loads of healthy snacks and different options that you can have. So it's just broadening everyone's horizons without maybe making them so aware of it. You know, they would just pick up a packet of baked crisps rather than a packet of fried. It's just making those subtle changes in the office that will just help make people feel a lot better about themselves. And I think it is a massive business responsibility as well, because you are spending the majority of your time there. So what you feed yourself reflects on your performance. We also, I think it's a good, like I said, the education and teaching people about it and getting people involved and bring them along on the journey as well, rather than just throwing it in their face. So we host wellbeing weeks annually. So we kind of use that opportunity to teach our staff and reiterate the reason why we're doing this and getting them on board. And I think that's a great way of getting people involved.
How's the engagement with your wellbeing weeks as well? Have you noticed a shift in that?
So we've only done it for the last 2 years. So we've got our third one coming up in October, and it's been a massive increase. Like even from the first one to the second one, and it's like finding out what people actually want to learn about and what they're engaged in, rather than again like kind of guessing about it. So every time we've done it, we've learned a lot more as a company about what our employees actually want, what they're interested in, what they want to improve on in themselves. And it's really benefit, I think, not just like my role in itself, but the whole company as well.
In terms of whether it's sort of up to the company to actually do anything about it, when I'm talking to companies about the services I provide, my view is it's three-way. If as a business you just care about the money, looking after your staff will give them more energy, make them more productive, they'll have less sick days and they're less likely to leave. So as a business, that is to a benefit. The second piece is you can win awards. So to be part of the Times Top 100 now, they have added wellbeing as a category. And thirdly, there's the fact that you do actually have a duty of care to your people that are sort of in your responsibility for 8, 9, 10 hours a day, however long sort of they're in your office. So I completely agree that it's, I think, very old school to think, well, they're just my staff, it's not my problem. And then in terms of the things that you can do, absolutely sort of not giving people the options of donuts at 3 o'clock every day because you're just trying to give them a sugar hit to get them sort of working a bit harder, and then you realise that actually they're sort of going for a nap in the toilet. So I think taking away those things, but then also, exactly as you're saying, wellbeing weeks, or I go in and I do corporate talks, and so for some companies I do it monthly, for some companies it's quarterly, and what's lovely is that you're starting to see companies from very small brands where I might potentially be talking to 5 people in a room, up to major sort of high street brands who are saying this is something we need to be starting to take seriously. What I think is actually really quite sad and slightly worrying is I've spoken to some companies. There was one company in particular, and last year alone, they're a consultancy, so they're people on day rates. Their sick days alone lost the business £1.2 million. They have no wellness budget at all. And I was just gobsmacked that they weren't linking the two together and thinking that actually if we start to look after our staff, we help them with their stress levels, we make sure that they have got the right foods, that they're educated about how they should actually live a healthy lifestyle, because ultimately up to 70% of chronic disease is completely related to diet and lifestyle. So this isn't just sort of hippie stuff and the hippie vegans. It's like, no, this is actually just about living longer and not getting sick. So I think making companies realise that your staff will be better members of your team if you look after them.
And there's on that note about getting like the kind of buy-in from senior management or ownership, Vitality, I don't know if you guys know the insurance provider, they publish a report that's free online called Britain's Healthy Workplace. So they do it once a year, and it has all these statistics on like how eating well can impact productivity, and so there's lots of numbers there that show you kind of what the snapshot of Britain looks like today, what it used to look like. So it's a really interesting place to get numbers if you need that to build your case or build what you're trying to show.
Brilliant. Thank you, great tip. Everyone, I'll be checking that out afterwards as well. So taking a bit of a step back, we're kind of diving straight into kind of the workplace. I want to explore some of the wider, and actually Michelle, I'm going to throw it back to you because you just mentioned it in your answer. I want to talk about some of the kind of wider lifestyle and workplace changes that have happened over kind of, 10, 20, 30 years that have got us to this point where we're now at the stage it is vital that companies begin to look at their wellbeing strategy and begin to really take ownership over the wellness of their workforce. So what are some of the kind of the big kind of warning signs and pitfalls that we as individuals but also businesses have fallen into, whether that's, I don't know, like longer working hours, etc. Can you talk us through some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I think definitely the pressure these days on people is immense. I think that life has become very expensive and we no longer switch off. So from the minute you wake up in the morning and you pick up your phone and you check your email, which most of us in here will do, to the fact of when you go to bed, probably too late because you haven't got home from work to actually have a bit of an evening, and then you check your phone and your email before you go to bed. So we are constantly being hit with basically these stresses throughout the day. I know that when I first started, my background is recruitment, and when I first started in recruitment, I didn't even have a mobile phone. They didn't exist. I certainly didn't have a smartphone. So when I left the office at 7 in the evening, I was done. And when I arrived at 8:30 in the morning, that was the first time I knew about what was happening. So I think firstly, there is so much pressure to work longer when you're in technology, to deliver quicker. The deadlines are getting shorter. There's so much competition out there with sort of you release your product and then someone is quickly chasing at your heels. So you need to be sort of doing more faster and cheaper. And that is all coming to the pressures of people and the stress levels now that people are under. So the thing that was making me overweight, sick and exhausted was stress. And what was the most scary, I didn't even realise I was stressed. Run my own successful business, I earn enough money, I'm married to a man I want to be married to, I don't have children. I was like, life's easy. And then I realised actually the thing that was causing me stress was my best friend. So the impact of toxic people, sort of, certainly in my life, was sort of immense. But I think that people underestimate stress, and up to 90% of visits to the doctor are in some way related to stress. And the amount of sick days now, over 15 million sick days a year are lost because of stress. And businesses who are just thinking they can keep pushing and pushing, eventually people are going to just crash. People are now having burnout, people are having mental breakdowns. Most sadly, the levels of sort of suicide are now going through the roof. And it's just so much that we can actually be doing things to prevent. So if you give someone a chance to maybe come in a little bit later in the morning. I worked with one lady and she just wanted to come in later on a Wednesday so she could take her dog for a walk. And it was so her dog could go and play with other dogs, which sounds all a bit like silly. But yesterday was the first day that she did it because she'd asked her boss and her boss had agreed. And she did it yesterday and I saw her afterwards. She was like a different person. And you can guarantee she worked harder throughout the rest of the day. So small changes around flexible working, because maybe the train that you would need to get to be in work on time is a really horrible busy train and that's going to stress you out, or because you've got to drop your kids off somewhere. Whatever that might be, there are so many options out there and companies just have to now open their eyes, because this is something that is going to impact your business. I could talk about that for ages. I'll pass it on.
Thank you. Anyone else has anything to add to that?
Just one other thing to add on that is introducing a bit more, and everyone says this, mindfulness. So kind of like a mindful practice for yourself or people around you. And from my world, from a food perspective, you know, mindful eating is a very, very simple thing we can do. And it's just about being present, thankful and grateful, and enjoying your food in the moment without any distraction. So no phones, like how often are we eating and just like doing this or like on our computers, I think. And again, it doesn't have to be the half an hour that, you know, doctors recommend. It can start off with just even 10 minutes a day where you have a cup of tea, where you're not looking at your phone, you're not talking to anyone. And that's time for you. Like having a mindful practice doesn't benefit anyone else but yourself, really. So I think it's finding those time, like the dog walking thing, it's finding those moments throughout the week. We're all busy, we're all tired, but it's finding 10 minutes a day starting off where it's your own time, eventually move it to 30 minutes, and you kind of grow that, but it's giving yourself that time to be with yourself.
Brilliant.
Sorry, can I add?
Yeah, go ahead.
So like 100%, like really kind of speaking to what you're both saying. So one of the things we really encourage our company is that people don't eat their lunch at their desks.
Really simple, but
really simple.
effective.
And moreover, that leaders don't do that. That they sit with their team or get to know other teams. And like the mindful eating that comes from it, you know, with the stress, just stopping and not continuing and just like driving yourself through the day, it just makes such a difference. And another thing I just wanted to add was, I'm not sure if people have heard of the London Healthy Workplace Award. It's like a free initiative by the Mayor of London for all London businesses. I'm guessing most people are based in London here. It is amazing, really groundbreaking. So effectively, they're looking at 3 key things, so like policy and leadership around promoting healthy workplace practices in the workplace. Then you're looking at education and initiatives, so the kind of workshops, resources, information out there. And then you're looking particularly from a people practice, like kind of how you manage attendance and things like that. So it's something that's really built into the company. Doing yoga, mindfulness is really great, but if you don't have your flexible working policy in place, something so simple, but it's such a big component of well-being, it's an award that we're working towards, and part of what has kicked us kind of to do it is like our clients have an award, and it's like it's becoming this is a business imperative. It's just normal now. It's part of the conversation. It's weird to not talk about it. It's a part of our everyday language. Just having even like mattresses bring well-being now. It's in every part of our life. It's every kind of consumerism thing out there. And then just to kind of speak to a little bit your question before about kind of the trends and things. So one thing is working long hours. Another thing is digital. Like you just don't switch off. So I think quite a big push is actually switching from junk food to slow food, like proper food, like keeping it, again, really pared down and simple, but just makes such a big difference.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. Covering a lot of topics. I asked a question and I'm like, okay, that's the next question as well, which I love. Perfect. So I guess just to round off that point, because we've talked a lot about kind of things businesses can do, and we talked a little bit about what individuals can do. I want to go down that route a little bit more. Are there any other things, I guess, Adria, we can start with you, kind of the common pitfalls that we make? You mentioned sugar as being one of them. Are there any others? Caffeine, I don't know. Carbs after lunch, I'm not sure. But are there any other kind of common pitfalls and things that we can be doing to empower ourselves, as well as businesses and business leaders to support? What can we be doing individually as well?
Yeah. Thanks, Charlotte. Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things is, I think Charlotte had kind of talked about this when she first started. It's kind of, there's no one size fits all. And so the only way for us as individuals to assess our own health and well-being, or if you're assessing others, it has to be an individualized approach, and people have to be mindful about their reactions. So, while Michelle maybe can't have certain things like foods that she's allergic to, I know I'm not allergic to those, so I shouldn't be following a trend that is, not eating garlic or just because it's a trend. So I think that's a very common pitfall. I think eating more plants is, I keep saying it, like the best you can do from a diet perspective is just adding more plant-based. And if anyone reads about Michael Pollan, he's a great author. He's an American kind of professor who talks about where culture and food kind of like intersect. So it's quite interesting. And he has 3 really simple principles. He says, eat food, not too much, mostly plants. So yes, we can get into a lot of intricate diets, but really it's about being simple and listening to your body. So if you follow those basic principles and you see that certain days you're feeling good, and that's the thing, you have to check in with yourself at the end of the day. Did I have a good day today? Was I frustrated with my colleagues? Was I not? And check in. If you had a good day, look at what you ate that day. The next day, if you have a bad day, look at what you ate. And that's kind of how you're going to start seeing these like little patterns. So there is no one size fits all, and you may find, I know people who have been, gluten intolerant for years and years and years. They kick out gluten for 10 years. 10 years later, they start introducing it back slowly. The body's repaired itself somehow, So it's kind of cool things like that. So keep listening to your bodies. And I think if we think that there's one magical answer, one size fits, there really isn't, aside from eating more plants. But everything else should be, individualized for yourself and your own employees. And that's where I think if you're choosing food, the customization, I think that's a really key point.
Yeah, definitely. Michelle, if you want to
where you mentioned Michael, he's written an amazing book, The Food Rules, and it's very, very funny to read. It's quite a short book, and some of his rules are, if it comes through your car window, it's not food. If your grandmother wouldn't recognise it, then don't eat it. Cheese straws are always the ones that I use in that example, or cheese strings, or those sort of, I don't even know what it is. If it's advertised on the telly, don't eat it. And I love it because he's sort of making it simple that you can sort of sit there, and when you're making a decision on something, it's kind of when you're reading the label, and if it says something on it that a 6-year-old can't pronounce, then literally you have no idea what you're putting into your body. So I think that there is so much sort of amazing information, amazing podcasts out there now that it just brings it back to the simple. Let's look at what Mother Nature gave us. Yep. If you can visualize what the food looked like when it was alive, and whether that is an animal or whether that is a plant, that's a personal choice. But if you can visualize what it was like, then eat it. Whereas, could we all pull apart what's in a Big Mac and sort of put all the ingredients together and make it? Probably not. So, yeah, in terms of that, I completely agree with everything you're saying there.
Brilliant.
Can I just add a few things? So I made a little list here, so I was like really interested by this question. So at an individual level, some like little practical things like being organized, having a fully stocked pantry, so when you want to like cook that meal at home, you're not like having to run to some supermarket and adding half an hour to that and the kind of stress around that. Meal planning for the week ahead, and what nights am I in, what nights am I not in, and cooking as much food as possible. You're in control of the ingredients. It's also incredibly therapeutic, and if you can cook with someone or cook for someone, you could, with like your desk at work, your team at work, each time someone brings in lunch and like cooks for the team, like those little things like make such a big difference. And like two like things that have been a hack that has like totally transformed kind of my relationship with nutrition is using the freezer more. Right?
Yes, as a chef.
But backpacking, do you use backpack?
Yeah.
So you can get like consumer grade backpacking machines for like 30 quid.
Exactly.
Wow.
And so we make our own baked beans for our brunch on Sundays, and so like from little things like boiling, so soaking 3 sets of cannellini beans that they will then soak overnight, cook the next day. Some batch will like cook as baked beans, the other 2 will just vat pack, and then the next Sunday or another Sunday we can just grab them and then just cook them up. And the vat pack, one, it's like super sexy, super cool. You're like, oh yeah, I bring it to work. People are like, ooh, and I'm like, yes, so professional. And like suddenly the whole table buys vat packs. It's just, and also like when you have the tools, like you really enjoy it. I mean, I know you're a chef, so it's like another level, but like having it at a consumer level, it just like you take that pride. I mean, you take your pride in your food and your cooking. It just brings it up another notch. It's a different level of excitement and enjoyment. So just want to share those few things. And then just from an employer perspective, we talked a lot about food supplies, talks, workshops. So one of the things actually I was going to mention to you guys at some point is to do activities around food. So actually last time I was here, kind of met Talia and the crew, was when Kaleido were doing like a workshop. So for example, that's a really good team event that you can do that promotes healthy eating.
Can you explain a little bit more about that? What you did.
What we did. So Kaleido is this amazing thing. I love it, and it's also what's so good is it caters for the whole team. So it's this kind of rice paper that requires no cooking. You just soak it in water. It takes 1 minute. You take it out, and they had this, actually that table there, just like stacked full of little gorgeous pots of kind of from sweet corn to cucumber to your fish to grains to amazing pesto sauce, amazing like peanut butter chili sauce. And then you just all like sit around the table, soak your rice paper, and then like wander around, pick and dip, and you eat it on the spot. And it's like so gorgeous. And then you're like playing with things like if you put certain combinations in, you get like different colours, and you're like comparing colours. So it's just like really fun, but it's a team activity. It's healthy. You can open bottles, have your different drinks, and it's just really fun, and it's just a really gentle way of just bringing it in a normal, fun way. And then it's so unusual to do. So you're instantly sending videos, you're sharing it with your friends, your family. You're proud of it. It's something you've done at work. It's something new that you've discovered. And so we want to introduce things like that. So it's not like those typical kind of social events or team days where you're like, oh, let's go bowling. you know, like, yeah, of course, don't get me wrong.
As well.
Yeah, which is kind of cool.
Quite trendy.
And then another thing that's made a big difference for us is like having a portal. So we have resources around nutrition, around mental health, around physical health. And it just shows, it doesn't take much effort to create those resources, but it's like, you know, we're serious about this. And we can always, you know, first day when someone joins as part of onboarding, you know, here you go, you can check this out. And they're all like NHS links or, you know, London Healthy Workplace Award links, Vitality links, like it's all kind of credible, but we just curated them, and it just shows our commitment to our workforce. And just one final point, so we've launched Vitality for our team this year, and they have a really cool thing where if you shop at Waitrose, you get extra points and rewards, and moreover, if you buy foods that have like a green code on, which is like, you know, particularly healthy food or vegetables, you get extra points. So it's, again, choosing as an employer how we purchase things like insurance and developing those relationships. And obviously, it's up to us to keep talking about and educating people, but it just really makes a difference.
Brilliant. I love all of those points. I think there's something really powerful about connecting people to making their own food, to the supply chain and going back to basics. You can get beans out of a tin and you don't know what that supply chain has been like. You make it yourself, you do, and I think there's something really valuable in that. One thing we have learned actually at Feedr recently through our partnership a while ago with the Gut Health Doctor was the rule of 30, so talking about plant-based. If you can try and get a minimum of 30 different plant-based items in your diet a week, then that, you know, should cover you, and that's everything. It's not just 30 different types of veg, but it can be grains, fruits, nuts, seeds, veg as well. Anything that is kind of is natural and is plant-based, and that's quite a good one. I've been trying to stick to that, and I find that really has helped me kind of expand what I'm eating. I'm not just having broccoli every night. You need the different types of veg and different types of grains in there as well. Brilliant, cool, perfect, thank you so much. So moving on a little bit, I think we've talked about a lot of the different things that we can do individually and kind of as businesses and as business leaders. I'd love to hear, particularly obviously Charlotte and Beth, on what the impacts have been for your businesses and for your employees by introducing some of the changes that you have, whether it's kind of anecdotal feedback or kind of tangible, quantifiable data. I'd love to hear kind of the impact of what you guys are doing.
Do you want to go first, Beth? I feel like I've talked a lot.
So I think when I first joined the company, it was a much smaller company at the time, and we were kind of always giving the food to it was more about food rather than about nutrition. It was like giving everyone the food that they wanted. It was always pizzas, burgers, Nando's, donuts, everything like that. So since I came on board, we've really looked at changing what we offer everyone, and it has been quite a difficult change, very reluctant change for most people in the company, but when they see the results and they see the different things that they can have, the opportunities that they can have, the wider variety of food available, they've definitely seen improvements in themselves, they're feeling better about themselves, and they've also gained another interest in themselves, and people are being more interested in what works for them and other things out there. We offer, alongside all the food that we offer in the company, we also offer a bespoke fitness program for food, so people can kind of sign up to this program and they have meals tailored towards their fitness goals and really can track their macros and their interests and what their specific goals are. And we have about 20% of the company now using this specific program, as well as all the other food that we have in the company, and we're increasing more and more people seeing that they want to join the program. It's showing that people are more interested and care more about what they are putting into their bodies and their nutritional benefits. So I think from a kind of top level down of us showing them that these things are available and then them gaining an interest from it, I think that's the biggest change for us. People coming on board with it and being more accepting of it as well.
So we've been a client with Feedr for about a year, and we initially used Feedr like how we used other food providers. So one of our perks is free Friday lunch on us, and initially it was about just getting people together. You know, it's Friday, let's just chill a bit and just keep the afternoon a little bit light, a little bit easy. And of course there's the business benefits, more people coming to the office, hoping to increase productivity. They don't have to go out of the office. They stay in, and everyone gets together. You always get a bit of a buzz from just having a chat, playing a bit of table tennis, at a startup as you do. And so what we initially did was let's just get different versions of pies. So you've got, your veggie version, your fish version, your meat version. But of course, there'll be different allergies, different food preferences, and not all of it would be eaten or enjoyed. And we would try and mix it up every week. So we would, do burgers as you need to, and then we do salads. We do like the poke bowls, but there was always people who couldn't enjoy the perk or benefit, and often the hyper-conscious health people would actually bring in their own food. And you're just kind of sitting there a bit kind of sad. You kind of gone to all that effort. So we started using Cloud Canteen, and it's really made such a great impact on so many levels.
Which is for anyone that doesn't know, Cloud Canteen is our daily lunch service, and just to give you a little bit of context, so you know what Charlotte's talking about, we essentially launched Cloud Canteen within a business, and that then gives every employee within that business access to different daily menus, and we usually feature 2 to 4 different vendors a day on those menus, so menus change every day. We make sure we cater for all dietary requirements and preferences as well. So going back to the point on personalisation, it's to provide a really personalised food delivery service that is manageable at a business level and at scale. So that's kind of a little bit more about our Cloud Canteen. If you are interested, you can talk to our team afterwards as well on that point in more detail. But carry on.
So sure. So by using Cloud Canteen, we're about 100 people. So we've opted to have 3 vendors that people can choose from each Friday. And we basically go for a healthy option, an indulgent option, and an in-between option. So it gives people the choice. It's actually more inclusive because people can choose according to their needs. And it's not like you've got to be super healthy or look at you with your burger. It's like, you choose. It's your shout. We don't determine for you what you're eating this week, which is like totally weird when I think about it. But it's just been so good.
It's really nice to hear.
Yeah. And it also goes back to as employers, increasingly, it's a tough market out there to attract and retain talent, and people are used to having choice. There are our team members are our clients. I say that kind of particularly from the people hat that I wear. And so, like all consumers these days, they want choice, they want quality. So another great thing about Feedr is a lot of the food options are the sorts of things that you see on the high street. People are used to the quality of the food that arrives, the packaging, the branding is like what you see when you're out with your friends. And that's another kind of big employer branding point for us, which is really important. But I think as well, so on the actual Cloud Canteen platform, you can filter by dietary preferences. So it kind of can be quite quick. So it's not like you have to look through not hundreds, but lots of different options. You can just be like, yeah, I'm plant-based. These are my 5 options. I'll go for this one. And then what's good is we have a £10 budget. So it's a really healthy budget, and if people want to spend a bit more on having a bit of a pudding or a nicer drink, they'll pay that 50p extra. And people really appreciate it. Like, people want to max out their £10 budget and pay that 20p extra, put in £1, and that will last them for a few meals, because you're just paying that touch more if you want a bit more than like a really nice main course. And we have a lot of men in the company, so they want like a go large type meal. So again, that £10 allows them to do that. And what's nice as an employer is not everyone necessarily use the whole budget. So we're not spending any more by giving people like choice, which is really incredible. And it feels so good to be so inclusive. And I think it's also important for us to make a statement, like, this is accessible, not everyone has to go super healthy. Like, we're giving you the options, we're giving you the choice. And kind of using technology to do that is important. And then just kind of on the last point with eating your different kinds of vegetables. So it's different vendors each week, so you have variety, and you can choose the variety you want, going back to that personalisation, which is just so important.
Thank you for that plug. I promise that wasn't planned. Michelle, do you have anything that you want to add on what you've seen with your clients and seeing tangible benefits or kind of ad hoc feedback that you've had from your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so one of the recruitment businesses that I've been working with, it was very much led by the director, so it definitely helps when you've got someone at a senior level who is sort of leading the way with it. But he was so bought into it that he bought them a freezer, and the freezer gets filled with sort of frozen bags of different fruits and veg. He bought some NutriBullets. I'm sure there are other good blendings on the market. And now together they take it in turns to make smoothies for everyone in the morning. They've all started to go to the gym together at lunchtime. So
wow, so you've seen actual impacts on other areas of well-being as well. That's really powerful.
Absolutely.
Great.
So I actually had to change my sessions with them, because if I went in at lunchtime to do a coaching session, there was no one available for me to coach because they were at the gym.
Wow.
Or they'd all be kind of saying, oh no, sorry, can we do it at 2 o'clock? I'll be back then from my spin class. And I was like, who are you? What has happened? So massive impacts, but not just in work, but in their relationships. So this sales director was sort of not in a very happy place with his marriage, and now his marriage is all back on track because he's actually looking after himself, and because he's feeling better, he's going home, and therefore he's in a better mood, which means that things are nicer for his wife. So it so impacts everything. But by the fact that they're all doing it together, you're holding each other accountable. So if one person in the morning doesn't want to make the smoothie, but someone else is happening to making and putting it on their desk, or if someone thinks, I can't be bothered to go to the gym today, but other people are going, so you go, well, actually, I know it'll be worth it when I get there. So the impact is massive. The staff morale has gone up. You walk into the office and everyone is communicating with each other. They're having fun at work. They've not had anyone leave the business now because people are going, this is really exciting. From a point of view of staff being kind of your clients, and it's so hard to attract staff, it's becoming known in the industry that this is what they're actually doing, so they're finding more people are sort of coming to them. But I think that having people from above leading things, so one company I've seen recently decided to trial a 4-day week, and all the other businesses in this sector were kind of going, good luck with that, we'll let you do that, and they did it, and they compared the period of time that they had done it with the previous year, the exact period of time, and the revenue was exactly the same.
Wow.
So they've now decided they're going to carry on with the 4-day week, and that's not to mean that on a Friday people just are not available, but it means that they don't have to be in the office. It's a sales environment, so obviously if something happens and you need to sort of do some work at home, fine, but you're not expected to be in the office working like you would on a normal day. So it's fascinating to see businesses starting to try different things. And they're not all going to work, but if you don't try it, one of the things, there's something called the Miracle Morning, and this guy went and researched sort of the top CEOs and the top athletes to see what they do in the morning, and then he sort of put together the Miracle Morning, which was taking a piece of all of it, and pretty much all of the top CEOs meditate every morning. Wow. So talking about mindfulness, and you can talk about a minute. Yeah. Well, I do breathing sessions with people, and we can do 5 rounds of breath. It takes less than a minute, and they will feel calmer. So again, starting to get companies to do meditation with people, and them not feeling like this is where you're going to sit around on the floor sort of hugging. Although I do encourage hugging because it's all about connection with people, so I do that too. But I think it's amazing to see what businesses are doing, and they're seeing the benefits of it. Yeah. And the people who aren't doing anything, there's one guy that I work with, he was off sick last year 14 times. What is that about? But we looked at his screen time, we were talking about phones, and we put his screen time review on to see what's going on, because he spends a lot of time on his phone. Last week, he spent 36 hours on Instagram. That's just Instagram. It was 46 hours on his phone in total. And then he admits that he actually has a second mobile phone. And you're like, no wonder this guy is getting ill all of the time, because he's just on his phone, he's not sleeping. It's just incredible. And then I got him, I said to him, right, tonight you're going to go home, you're going to turn your phone off, you're going to get into bed at 9 and you're going to be asleep by 10. And we made this deal with each other. And he was like, okay. The next day was the first time he'd ever been to work early. And his boss literally came up to him and was like, what have you done? I was like, he went to bed early. So just the benefits are massive, but it's about getting that buy-in from the seniors, because if the senior people are eating their lunches at their desks, never leaving their desks, emailing their staff at 11 o'clock at night, you feel like there's pressure to do that.
I completely agree. It's definitely got buy-in from the seniors, and obviously when you see kind of like C-suite people doing it, you're more encouraged to do it yourself. But I think you've got to kind of recognise that in yourself. If you want to go to the gym at lunch, then you've got to make time to do that. I mean, I've always wanted to go to the gym at lunch, but always made an excuse not to go. And I'm massively into my fitness. I've always either done it before work or after work. But just taking the time out and being like, actually, I do have an hour lunch that I'm going to go to the gym myself, and I'm going to take that time. Got my little gym buddies here, and we really do encourage each other to go as well. And it's a definitely team bonding thing as well. It's not anything but the company's encouraging us to do. We're just choosing to do that with our time. And it's not only, I never believed in the whole taking an hour of lunch, make you feel a lot better. But since doing this, it's made my day so much better, made me feel better about myself. And it's, again, I guess a personal thing that I've realised in myself, and realising how important it is to do that. And starting trends, so as we start to do it, you encourage other people to do it. People see it's okay to do that kind of thing. So, yeah, I think it's a great thing. Also, going back on the food inclusivity point, we kind of offer the same thing. So on Friday, we see it as like our treat day. So we're kind of like encouraging healthy eating throughout the rest of the week, but Friday we really see it as a treat day. So we just make sure we order from a variety of vendors, so everyone's happy, everyone can eat together. It's a very inclusive thing. We're not trying to direct people into what they want to eat exactly, but it's just having the variety for everyone to be happy and really enjoy everything together.
I think there's definitely something to be said. Obviously, buy-in from the top. It's important, especially if you need budget for these things, but also I love the point you made actually about if you make that personal choice for yourself and you've got a little team, and then other teams see you doing it, or other people, there's actually kind of power in the numbers as well. If people are saying, I'm going to take a lunch break, whether that is to go and sit outside and eat, or to go to the gym, or to meditate, whatever that might be, I think there's something powerful in that as well, so thank you for sharing that. I'm slightly conscious of time because we've been talking for almost an hour. Really good chat, guys. Yeah. So kind of final two questions. If anyone has we'll keep them kind of quick fire. One is talking about that buy-in from the top. Do you have any tips for getting that buy-in and being conscious of time, keeping that really quick? And then we'll move on to a last quick fire round as well.
So we had Friday lunches institutionalised in our company quite early on, but we've increased the budget, and that's because using a platform like Feedr, we're spending less time doing the admin, and people can choose their own, and we just might top up with a few if people have forgotten to order that week, so it saves us a lot of time. We partner with Feedr. Pippa's really great to help us curate the offerings each week. And what's also great is data. We can see level of engagement, the number of people have ordered, the sorts of things they're ordering, which just helps us curate the menus and get it better and better, sweet spot every time, which means then we can develop reports. So it's a very different kind of conversation with the C-suite in that way. And it's really about culture and doing the right thing. So another thing that we love with Feedr is that for every meal, a meal goes to a child. And that whole charity thing as well, that's about who we're about. It's bigger than us. Particularly as a health tech company, that's our mission, to help people live longer, live their best lives. So it also becomes part of our employer branding. And everyone loves a good meal. Everyone just needs a good chat. So it's just, for me, to get the buy-in, it's just like grabbing 10 minutes for C-suite and just sitting them down and look, I think it's just a really good thing. Really good food, you like eating here, I know you do. You kind of get to know them in that way. They try it once, they see how quick and easy it is, and it's just really easy to build on that.
Brilliant. So really to summarise that, it seems to be efficiency of service, so looking for something that doesn't take up hours and hours of your time, something that you can get data kind of specific ROI from, so the more data the better. I guess obviously senior leaders need to be seeing the ROI from things as much as, wellness can sometimes be fluffy, so looking at the data around that wellness. And then thirdly, I guess you mentioned, which is a really great point, killing two birds with one stone. So if you can find a service that offers you one benefit, but then there's a charitable arm to it as well, whether that is Feedr or Vitality or any of the other fantastic wellness services out there, then that seems to be a hit with C-suite as well. Perfect, amazing.
And sorry, just to add, so our office manager, she used to work at Deliveroo, and she would spend her whole Thursday, literally, she would have to work from home managing food orders for their Friday lunch. And literally, we'd do it in half an hour now. So it's game changer.
Again, not planned.
Yeah,
Thank you, though. Okay, so final quick question. Taking it a bit more personal, what is your kind of what would your top tip be for kind of helping to manage your nutrition and wellness on a daily basis? And I'm happy to start. I think my point earlier about trying to hit the 30 different plant-based items a day, it'd be good going, a week is a really good one. But also my other one I find is staying hydrated. I always have, and my team can attest to this, I always have multiple drinks on my desk at any one time, so a green tea or a peppermint tea plus a bottle of water, and I find that's just quite a good visual reminder to remain hydrated, which then also means I'm getting up more to refill and etc. So that they would be my two top tips.
Mine is bringing in lunch to work. So if it's not lunch that I've made the night before, it's buying it at prep, for example, and then bringing it in. With my workload just being so crazy during the day, I just don't have to feel I have to kind of go out. I can go for a walk, but it's as and when I can, and I've got proper food in the fridge, and I can properly sit down and chat to someone as and when I need. And then I'm not just like grabbing anything quickly, rushing out, coming back. It's just there, ready for me when I can.
For me, I love cooking, and I appreciate not everyone does, but it's having a good meal one meal a day with someone I enjoy having a meal with. So whether that's my partner, usually, whether that's someone on my team, I think it's having one of the 3 meals. I only do 3 meals. I don't kind of snack throughout the day, but one of the 3 meals is just having a meal with someone you enjoy being around with. And I find that's just something so beautiful about having some good food, enjoying some time with, a friend or a colleague.
Mine would be probably short-term realistic goals, so like maybe your goal for that week could be how many vegetables you're going to eat, could be how many times you're going to go to the gym, could be how many meals you're going to eat out with your friends, and enjoy the time and using the time to think about your food and realistic goals.
I've got 2 quick ones. One, when it comes to food, is batch cooking. On a Sunday when I'm doing a roast dinner, I will also be batch cooking something, normally a curry or a chilli or a dal or something. It just goes in the slow cooker, and that just means that I know throughout that week at those points when I don't have enough time to cook fresh or I want to bring lunch with me, it's easy. And the second one, for me, I got introduced to yoga and is without a doubt the best thing I've ever done. It is ultimately moving meditation, so you get to combine exercise and meditation and mindfulness. And I do it every morning now, which I never ever thought for a minute I would be getting up at 6:30 to go and do yoga in the morning. But the days that I can't do it for whatever reason, I know throughout the day I won't make as good a choices, whether that's around food, whether that's sort of around my connection with people. So for me, taking that time out, for me, you were saying about the importance of taking time out. I'm not with anyone else, I'm not on my phone, I'm meditating, I'm moving. It was just, game changing.
Brilliant, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for sitting with us for an hour as well. A round of applause for everyone.